Hey everyone.
Oh.
Welcome back after the break. So today, this is a bit of a departure from typical HEDNA. You might have wondered why the title of this session was PMS, Final Distribution Frontier. I think a lot of that really is due to the fact that from HEDNA's perspective, we always look at distribution from a predominantly CRS-centric world. So I thought it would be a nice opportunity to bring some PMS partners into the room and get your take on some of the hot topics and things that we look at every day from a HEDNA distribution perspective. So before we go ahead and jump in, why don't we do a quick intro for everyone? So just name, where you're from, kind of what you do in your role.
Thank you, Daniel. So I'm Mirko. I'm part of the Planet Group. So my core focus would be software engineering and products. Basically last 16, 17 years, I'm close to the PMS and CRS, so Micros, Oracle, Sabre, Protel, and Planet, yeah. So happy to participate in this panel. It's quite interesting, yeah.
Great, thanks.
I'm Philip, one of the founders of Apaleo. We claim to be the open hospitality platform, and it's very much tech-driven and guided by openness and easiness of integration. We'll talk about this certainly a bit during the session.
Great.
And my name is Josef. I'm the Senior Product Director at Mews, and we're in the business of transforming the hospitality business and allowing hotels to do so along the way to really deliver a remarkable guest experience at the end of the day. So that's our focus overall.
Great, thanks. So to jump in, yesterday during Sebastian and Floor's conversation, Floor made a comment where he said, you know, we've got so many technology solutions in the tech stack. We really want to simplify and narrow that down to kind of one central solution. And I think in a lot of ways, PMSs are becoming hubs more than all-in-one solutions where they're utilizing open APIs to really plug in the software and tools that are needed. In that environment, where do PMSs sit in the tech stack? And is the kind of PMS that we know, or our classic notion of a PMS, is that outdated?
Well, I don't think that PMS will ever be outdated, right? If you look into hospitality landscape and ecosystem, right? So you need to check in and check out the guest. You need that invoice. There are legal requirements, there are fiscal requirements around Europe and other countries as well. So basically, I would say that the PMS is the only true system of record when it comes to the hospitality, right? Definitely CRS distribution piece, all good, but from that front office person perspective and an overall operation perspective, PMS is definitely the system of record, right? So long term, I don't think that would ever disappear. It could happen definitely that with an emerge of the different marketplaces, open APIs, that there is more and more modules that you add to this PMS, like an iPhone store or Android store, that you enhance the overall PMS experience. But yeah, it will stay there.
Yeah.
I think property management will certainly continue to play its role. It's an important piece, but I think the days of a PMS-centered tech stack are definitely gone. Take CRM or CDP as an example. There's a good reason to have a source of records for the profile, for the golden record of a guest, as well as there might be a center of records for what Mirko said, the transactional data, what happens from the accounting perspective. And I think both can play their role. And we just saw over the decades that, you know, you can't be a perfect property management as well as a perfect customer data platform, as well as you name them. So I think it will be a multi-tiered tech stack with different sources of records. And if everybody can concentrate on his piece and be perfect and very innovative in this area, then the set of multiple tiers will be given, or will be giving the freedom to hoteliers to really choose where they can make the difference and how to, as Josef said, how to provide the best possible experience. And I would say both for guests as well as for staff, because everybody's guest focused, but you also see how much inefficiencies there are from this on the staff side and how much you can provide beneficial value to operations.
Great. What do you think?
I mean, I have the advantage hearing both points here. And it is, for me, it definitely is a mixture. You know, the operational side of a property management system, there is so much complexity of being compliant, as Mirko said, and, you know, and enabling that kind of guest experience means that the hotel doesn't have to worry about the boring stuff, you know. So as that kind of system of record, we need to take care of it. But very early on, Mews realized that, yeah, we can't do everything, you know, at the same time. So we were the first to have a truly open API to allow partners to connect as many as and as much as they want, to really drive forward the change that we wanted to do in the industry. And then ultimately, you know, talking about the records within a PMS, I think architecturally our system is based on the profile, not on the reservation. So there is a kind of counterplay between, you know, the CRM, CRS, the profile records, the reservation records, and so on. So I do agree with both points, actually. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I'm going to come back to the profile thing in a moment. But my question next is, I think a lot of technology players in the room could probably attest to, there's constant innovation coming out from everything from keyless solutions, touchless, CRM, marketing, and oftentimes one of the largest barriers of entry for a lot of these tech providers is PMS integration. They just don't have the time and the resource to code to, you know, hundreds of different property management systems to be able to leverage that relationship. Where do you think the burden of responsibility should really sit from a connectivity perspective? Is it the CRSs? Is it third-party tech providers like a Siteminder or an integration hub like a Happy? Like, where does that really sit to make it easier to have those connectivities or the connectivity in place and facilitate innovation a little bit more quickly? I don't know who wants to start.
I can go,
yeah?
Sure. So for me, it depends, basically. It depends, and I'm coming to it maybe from a more product point of view. We always thinking, do we partner, do we acquire, or do we build? Those are the choices that we make on a regular basis. And having a really open API allows us to partner really quickly with newcomers, you know, people that are very, very keen to get entry into the market and can connect for free. But in some cases, we have to do that work, you know, that leverage. And it's actually a decision that we have to make. And the burden of responsibility, I think, it depends on the situation. It depends on the portfolio. It depends on the vision that the company, the supplier has. So it's not as simple. I always call it like a ping pong game, really. I mean, when I have lots of discussion, you know, no, you build to us. No, you build to us. You know, that kind of discussion. But it's, you know, and that's every company, every supplier has to make that decision for themselves and partner up in the best interest of their customers, ultimately.
I would totally agree in a sense that we need to move away from being gatekeepers. I mean, one of the core platform principles is never act as a gatekeeper, which means we expose 100% of data and functionality to the outside world. It does not solve the answer or the question, who starts? But the first thing is to make it totally free to access any piece of data because the hotelier should own it. And also not to access any piece of functionality. It must be open by 100%. The second thing is it should be really kind of easy and self-service to integrate, because it's one thing to offer APIs, but if you need to sign an NDA to get access to the APIs, yeah, I mean, it starts being the same conundrum as in the past. So it must be self-service. It must be supported. So we think we do not only offer 100% of open APIs, but we also offer the best support, either to let partners integrate with us, to find maybe a party that combines the two platforms, or even to let hoteliers build things themselves, because they are also very innovative thinkers. And 30% of our clients, they have developed certain pieces of applications which they can integrate into our platform. And this level of self-service, I think, is also one of the key attributes a platform should have. So openness, then easiness of integration, and latest then also as a third component is to foster the ecosystem, as Mews does as well. We do it the same way. We really try to encourage a marketplace to come up to make the hoteliers also part of the ecosystem and let third parties like the innovative ones that you mentioned have a one-click sandbox available to test out, to try out, and also to show their innovation to hoteliers. So the platform characteristics, the mindset of a platform, I think, is key to make this fast innovation not only happen once, but in a very continuous way.
Great. Do you want to chime in there?
Yeah, maybe just to add a bit more here.
Okay, yeah.
It's a complicated ecosystem, absolutely right. But there are disruptors, new companies, newcomers that really want to integrate. They're really good when it comes to an open API and all of that stuff. Then you have the whole HTNG community as well that is sort of on the other side. And then in addition to that, you have on-site interfaces. You have Wi-Fi, key cards that's still using FIAS, like an old protocol invented in 90s or whatever, yeah. So it's a mix of different technologies, and it's definitely not easy. I think from a PMS perspective, we should all stick to this open API approach, definitely, and marketplace, and make that move forward, because it's not just the development, it's the actual enablement of an actual interface, right? Let's say that you have a PMS and you want to get a revenue management system. Mm-hmm. Why can't you simply download the revenue management, enable it, and everything happens behind the scenes, right? So that's part of the service marketplace that we all mentioned, right? We want to enable the connectivity, send bulk uploads of data to the revenue management. They can bring decisions down to the PMS, and you don't need to call for that integration specialist to come on site and make it all happen, yeah?
So I'm hearing that we need to make sure that everyone's off premises, right? We got to get rid of that and move forward as quickly as possible. Everyone, hoteliers in the room, we'll work on that. So jumping back to what you had said earlier about the profile data and even looking back at what Mercedes and Ben were talking about earlier, the PMS houses such incredibly rich customer profile data. You know what the customer wants, what they like, what they're doing. How can the CRSs and the brands and their loyalty programs, how can they more effectively communicate or work with the PMS to leverage some of that data to evolve and create a more personalized experience for the customer? What do you think?
Definitely not using HTNG, right? So, sorry, it gets even more complicated than that. It's not just the PMS, it's the point of sale, right? So imagine that you want to do segmentation of your customers based on the spend that they do across different revenue centers that you have. So first of all, when you connect point of sale with the PMS, you have these famous sales itemizers, right? So you link restaurant A, food, beverage, and all of these splits into the PMS, right? And that's the point where you already lose articles and the actual spend of the guest based on the articles itself, right? And then if you move this revenue to the CRS, you're grouping that revenue all over again, right? So somehow I think it all depends on the size of the customer. If you're big enough and you can afford development teams, you can build your own customer-centric solution. You can connect all of these systems, you can bring up the data, and you can expose that data to marketing automation tools. If you're a smaller 5-hotel chain or something like that, then definitely there are players out there on the market that could connect to any of these systems. They already understand the structure, there are interfaces in place, and you can bring the data in. So it really depends on the size, I would say. Yeah.
I think we took a quite radical approach to say it like this. I mean, we receive all the reservations from the outside world, of course, as a property management platform. But what we called it, we receive reservation profiles. It's nothing more than that. Mm-hmm. And then we shoot signals to, you call it CRM or CDP, and we let those platforms, which are dedicated to make this, we let those platforms deduplicate, enrich the profile. Is it really who is it who's just with guest.booking.com arriving, but maybe matching the profile with some other criteria. And then having done this in a dedicated platform, we receive the right data and we are open to receive it and to provide it to front desk. So at the same time where front desk is supported, the CDP has all the knowledge also to drive whatever they want to do, like campaigns or further segmenting or targeting and whatever. And that's also my favorite example where I truly believe a PMS will never be able to do that well. It should, as Leonard said for Citizen M, it should allow to retrieve these reservation profiles and then do whatever magic is needed and then send back to the property management piece for operational support all the data that is needed on site. And the rest is well placed in the CRM and can be taken there for email marketing, campaign segmentation, and so forth. I think it's nothing that a PMS should do, honestly.
Nice.
I think that's where we will
Differ?
slightly differ. Because that, in our opinion, it kind of restricts us just on the reservation level. There is an income, a revenue line that a hotel gets from bedrooms. But there is so many more services around their real estate that they can sell without actually having a reservation. Actually knowing a profile that's coming into their restaurant and to be able to follow them in a digital way, how they behave in your spaces, that's where I believe we need to get to. So it's actually digitizing the whole experience. I'm really frustrated that at the moment, as soon as I check in at the hotel, my digital identity just disappears. No one knows where I'm going. No one knows that I'm going to the gym, that I'm going to this restaurant. Maybe, if I put something on my room, then they know my consumption. But it's actually being able to map out the journey that a guest takes. That is true loyalty. And I experienced that in an analog way in a hotel where they saw I was going to the gym. So the next time I came, they actually said, did you know that we rent out gym equipment? Trainers, T-shirts and so on. So you don't have to pack it the next time you come. So next time I stayed there, I didn't have to pack all this sports stuff and they just gave it to me. And that is loyalty provided in an analog way. But I believe if we have really centralized profile data and we can follow through key access and so on, we can really digitize the whole experience and get true preferences through in the future.
I think the only complexity is with the big chains. Why? Because PMS might not be compliant in every single country, right? So there is a multi-PMS strategy as well that certain chains are adopting, right? So basically their PMS simply plays the role of the system that can do check-in, check-out, distribute the data, send profiles out, and then it stops there. But then again, as I said, if we have a smaller chains, definitely it makes sense to have that guest-centric 360. And
I think it's easy to kind of take that data, translate it, and pass it onto the centralized systems through integrators or through customer management tools and so on. But I think just thinking about the immediate reservation just would limit us as a PMS to move beyond that. Because we want to be really supporting our partners with the right data. And even if it's a PMS kind of strategy, actually, we can still send the data over, It's just that the other PMSs won't send it, and then the fields will be blank on that side.
Interesting. I'm going to switch gears a little bit on you guys, knowing that we've had so many conversations on the payments front. I wanted to get your thoughts on a take I saw the other day. There was a recent article published in Forbes from IDC, a consulting group, that said 74% of all consumer transactions will be processed by non-financial institution companies by 2030. So that's 8 years. So I guess knowing about Uber and some of these other things about just making it so seamless, where do you guys see embedded payments really shaping or changing our industry, and how can we prepare and evolve, knowing that really at the PMS that's where the payment needs to occur?
I think from a planning perspective, we're already working on it. Not working, we have basically production-ready orchestration of services that can enable hoteliers to actually deal with the payment in a way that is appropriate to today's whole digital era, right? So just to give you like a bit of a reflection, like 10 years ago or even less, right, you would get the credit card information through the booking engine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's say that you want to create a guest online check-in, right? You cannot really do that. You cannot reuse the card.
Right.
There are issues. What we have right now, or what should everyone be aware of, is that there are tokenizers out there and orchestration services. Basically, they can tokenize the card. They can expose that credit card across multiple channels, right? Because let's say that you're targeting your guests through the booking engine online check-in. You can send different emails. He can go back to the booking engine and basically adjust his reservation. And then again, that same guest would be on that reception, right? So handling offline and online payments with the same credit card, I think that's really important. In addition to that, like really being able, and that's like step 2 would really be to get that guest-centric view of the guest based on the token of the credit card or multiple credit cards, because that enables you to have that spend and guest behavior across multiple systems, not just the PMS, right?
Yeah.
It's the whole e-commerce piece as well. Yeah.
Great.
I think payment is the point where we see that, you know, that industry, even if it's one of the latest, will also move radically towards e-commerce experience, real-time experience, and the consumer behavior will be the driver. So I think property management platforms or systems, however, they really need to cover all the alternative payment methods, make it as easy as possible to pay through mobile, reuse maybe the payment method they have entered at the beginning, but also to allow to switch payment methods very easily. So if you book with a credit card, or you have made, or you have maybe somebody, the corporate office did the booking with a corporate credit card, it must be extremely easy to add your personal payment method, maybe to make use, as we do, of all kinds of payment links that allow the customers to switch or to really use bank transfers. We had it yesterday also. So this flexibility, which you are used from a consumer perspective, must be adopted from the hotel side, switching payment methods, using payment links, and all this stuff. And we are on a quite a good way, I think, on it.
I think that part is really called like adoption of a digital wallet, right? Because you as a person, you do have your digital wallet. You can have crypto in there. You can have any type of the card, Revolut, whatever that is. And then basically you have an abstraction on the payment level, and you're simply utilizing the wallet to get the money that you need. As long as you charge, you're fine, right? You will get your money. And this is basically where like Planet fits in right now from a payment perspective.
Excellent.
Yeah, I agree with all of this. We actually mandate to use our integrated payment system to all of our customers because we believe we've built a seamless way of actually taking those payments. But it needs to go beyond that. You know, what about tips? What about paying in the restaurant? What about memberships, recurring payments, direct debits? You know, those are really interesting subjects in terms of how can we again monetize the space that the hotel is paying for all the time. You know, the real estate, one of the most expensive things that they have to have. How can we drive recurring revenue through that as much as possible? And yeah, financial services and fintech is at the heart of it, and it has to be, because otherwise there is friction everywhere. So yeah, that's my point here.
Great. Well, we are, I think, about at time. I could have spent another half hour up here chatting with you guys. So thank you for the time. I really appreciate it. Great feedback. Thanks, everybody.
Yes.